I'm here this morning with Willie Geist. He joins us here at Main Street. He is the host of Way Too Early on MSNBC, which airs on weekdays at 5:30 a.m. And he's the co-host of Morning Joe, which airs immediately after that from 6 to 9. Is that right?
That's right. Well plugged. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So you're on TV pretty much right when people wake up.
Yes.
As they're going to work. You used to be on in the afternoons. You were on Tucker Carlson's show. You're one of his producers.
Yep.
What was it like switching from afternoons to way too early, as you call it?
Miserable, I think is the word. You know, a lot of people, the Today Show or you know, Good Morning America say, no, you know what? I heard Stephanopoulos say, you know, I kind of like being up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. It's great. I got to jump on the day. I've got my no. It's miserable. It's terrible,
So
and they're just sugarcoating it. No, and they're trying to convince themselves that it's going to be okay, and it's not. But the show is a lot of fun, despite the hour.
Are the viewers different? Because you have this segment where people email you crazy stuff.
Yes.
Like an excuse for why they're up that early.
Yes. Well, at 5:30 you get a niche audience, right? So it's people who are super intense jobs. They're up early. It's mothers who are up nursing. Or on the other hand, we get, I'd say, half of our emails come from the West Coast. People are up at 2:30 because, you know, you're still in that sweet spot. Depending on your age, you could have been out all night, or you're up watching SportsCenter and you've seen it 3 times and you switch over. So our advantages were the only live thing on cable news at 5:30. So you have CNN, headline news, and Fox are all in tape from shows that aired like 10 hours ago. So this is fresh. It's out of the box. I love it because we get the first crack at every story. We're the first ones to see the newspapers. Did you hear about this story? And basically what we tried to lay out is not a strict, straight news show, but something like you would have around your kitchen table where, yes, you talk about Obama and healthcare, what's he doing, how's he going to screw this up, but you also mention the Oscars, and you also talk about, did you see that crazy video on YouTube?
Yeah, it's more of a conversation.
It's conversational, and it's all-encompassing. The way my friends who aren't, what's the term, news dorks, I would say, they're interested in the news, but they're not like living inside the beltway. They're interested in the serious stuff, but they're also interested in the trivial. So we try to give it all under one umbrella.
Cool. And that's only 30 minutes long, so you have, you know, a very short window to get everything out there.
And I like that because I like the pacing of just, here's everything you need to know. We've only got 22 minutes of airtime. Here's all the stories we think you might be interested in. And then a Morning Joe, you've got 3 hours to discuss them, to put them in some context. So we're almost setting the table for Morning Joe, putting all the information out there, and then the discussion happens for the 3 hours after.
I mean, you talk a lot about politics, and you were recently covering the Olympics in Vancouver for NBC. But I think one of your personal interests is like how people become famous.
Yeah.
And people like the Salahis and Balloon Boy.
Definitely.
We were talking about this before we started rolling. And like Lady Gaga, where do these people come from? What is it about them that makes them famous, that makes them of interest to people like you?
Well, they usually do something that catches everyone's eyes instantly. Balloon Boy, they did something obviously there. Salahis obviously broke into the White House, allegedly, or whatever they did. So there's a moment, you could call them one-minute wonders, where they spring into our lives. The way I think about these people is sort of as parade floats, who are these huge, larger-than-life, or the balloons at the Thanksgiving Day parade. They're these huge, they come around the corner, oh my God, and we look up and we gawk at them, and it's crazy. Did you see that? And they float down the street, we forget about them.
Or we pop
another one, or we pop it, exactly. And then another one comes around the corner, and we're fascinated by that until it passes us by, and then it deflates, and we forget about it forever. So I think we're interested in them because they're so easy to digest. It's easy to have an opinion on them. Can you believe Balloon Boy's dad? It's like the easy argument. And it doesn't ask a whole lot of you intellectually, whereas thinking about healthcare or Iraq, it's so complicated, and maybe you're torn about it a little bit morally. But these kind of people, they give us an easy thing to fix.
So they're apolitical.
They're apolitical, and they're just so simple, and they're entertaining, and it's okay to make fun of them and laugh at them, and people like that.
Can you explain to our viewers a little bit how you became what you are today? From what I understand.
What have I become today?
Well, now you're a morning TV show host.
Oh, right.
And you started at MSNBC as a producer for Tucker Carlson, and some of your funny side remarks to him before the show started, they figured they would make that a segment.
Right, that's right. Well, I actually worked in sports for a long time, so I've had a long and winding road as a producer. And then when I came to MSNBC to work on Tucker's show, I was one of the senior producers of the show. So when you say they thought it was a good idea that I'd be on the show,
you thought it was a good idea.
Well, you know, I was one of they, I guess it's fair to say. But yeah, we were trying to come up with an end piece for the show, the last segment. We were on at 11 o'clock at night so we could lighten it up and have some fun. And Tucker and I, had just met each other 2 months before the show started, but instantly hit it off. He's such a funny and smart guy. So we would have this newsroom banter, and he's like, why don't we just do something? It's 4 minutes at the end of the show. What the hell? So we did it. It took some pitching to people. Who is this guy? He's going to come out of the control room. Because I was literally in the control room with like a headset on and then would run out in the commercial break. And it was all the trivial stuff. But we had a good time with it. And then I started doing things for Joe Scarborough's show, Scarborough Country. Did a spot or two for Countdown and some other shows. And then when Don Imus said what he said on that fateful day 3 years ago now, literally the next morning, MSNBC had 3 hours to fill. And they were like, you go, and you go, and just talk for 3 hours. We'll figure this out later.
So you're in a good place.
Yeah, it was right place, right time, unfortunately, for Don and for the
He bounced
Rutgers
back, though.
players.
He's on Fox now.
Yeah, he's fine. He's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those weird twists of fate. And I knew Joe a little bit, didn't really know Mika. And then over that entire summer, they sort of rotated people in and out. And they ended up stuck with the three of us, and it's been almost 3 years now.
Some of our viewers are small business owners, and as you know, it's not all that hard to get on local TV if you do something like a Balloon Boy type stunt,
right?
But less illegal.
So
if you have
the degrees of legality,
less controversial, but controversial enough to get
right.
on. What are some things that somebody who's never been on TV before, and you wind up interviewing them for a segment? What should they know? Like, what do people do wrong that they don't really realize they're doing?
You mean like media training?
Exactly.
Kind of thing?
Like for somebody who doesn't have any media training, how do you come across well in those 30 or 45 seconds?
I think you have to know exactly what you want to say. We don't like talking points. It's so hard because you want somebody to be concise. Put that away. Yeah. You want somebody to be concise because the long and winding answer gets you in trouble. But at the same time, you don't want it to come off like you're memorizing the lines you put in your head. So I would say if you want to be memorable on TV, have a little personality. If you want to break through, don't try to be funny if it's forced, but just do something or say something memorable. But if you just come on and say sort of spitting out bromides and cliches, it's kind of like
or like the woman at the Oscars who Kanye'd.
Right. See, that's a good way to get on TV. If you want to interrupt the Oscars, then you'll get on TV. But yeah, I would say a little bit of personality is important, definitely.
Okay. That's pretty
much. You
much.
can use your notes again. If
No,
you want.
I mean, I have to do it from memory now. You also have the Zeitgeist, which is on MSNBC's website.
Right.
And what does that allow you to do that you can't do on TV?
Well, there really, honestly, they might hate me for saying this. There are no rules with it. It's
for the TV show or for
no
the website?
for Zeitgeist.
Okay.
So it's think of something, write it up, put it on. It actually gives me a little bit more freedom because although it's hard to imagine a TV show with more freedom than Morning Joe, but you can kind of get away with saying some things that are a little edgier and perhaps less appropriate for a television audience. And it also lets me, I write that up and produce it. It's basically comedy writing, it's satire, so it kind of lets me scratch that itch of, in most cases, it's literally comedy writing. So the Way Too Early show I write, but it's news and I try to give some incidental humor to it. It's not, the thrust of it is not humor. But Zeitgeist, you can just cut it loose and make strange references or show inappropriate video from YouTube, or you just have more freedom to be a little bit more creative, I'd say.
And nobody picks that apart. Like when you say something on national TV, it's like, oh, I
Right.
can't believe he said that about the president.
Exactly.
And it'll just keep going on. But if you say something outrageous online, nobody really cares.
That's true. That's true. I don't know why that is.
It's weird, isn't it?
It is, but there are all these sort of media watch sites that if you say anything, a lot of them obviously have political agendas, so if you say something they disagree with, they'll pick it apart and find a reason why it was wrong and immoral and you're a bad person. And then there are all the other blogs who just rip you for being who you are. Maybe they'll call you a D-bag. I don't know. I get that sometimes. But yeah, on the web, it's like, they either think you're funny or they don't. If they don't, they ignore you and go look at something else. But Zeitgeist is fun. And it's surprisingly, obviously MSNBC is a nice vehicle, but they get, some months we'll have like 3 million views on it. So you think you're sort of just doing this little thing that you're in the studio in the back and nobody's watching, but You know, if you get
has that
if
following.
you get a hot one, yeah, you know, it gets in front of a lot of people.
Ends up on Dig or something, and then
Right.
it's a million people right there.
Exactly, exactly.
I do have to go back to my
Go
notes.
to the notes.
See
man.
what else is going on here.
Come on.
Let's see. I wanted to ask you about Obama's, like how Obama's image has shifted, because he started off very popular.
Yeah.
And the last person we interviewed here was Obama Girl, who is your kind of star, you know, YouTube famous. And she recently got into some trouble for giving him a B-, which the New York Post took up as their story.
Right.
And I mean, I don't think a B- is that bad, really. That's still passing.
I was going to say, by my standards, that's like an 82.
Yeah,
right?
that's. I mean,
I would have taken that in college.
that's what I pulled in college.
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
much. But I mean, where does he stand right now? Do you think he's doing okay, or is he overdoing it with the healthcare?
Personally, I think that all this right now is noise, and that if he gets health care passed, which he expects to get, and a lot of people expect him to get, even if it's some totally stripped down version of what he originally wanted.
Mm-hmm. If it's just a bill.
If it's a bill and he says, look, I got all these uninsured people covered, pre-existing conditions are no longer a reason not to insure somebody, and he can point to all these things, and he'll have a ceremony where he signs the bill and everybody will be clapping behind him. It will be President Obama gets historic health care reform, something no president has done in XX years, and it'll be a victory, and all this stuff, which is our job, we analyze and break down why he's doing something wrong, will be forgotten. I honestly believe that. So maybe the way he's gone about it hasn't been great. A lot of people say he could have taken more of he could have been stronger and a stronger leader, but I honestly, I'm not going to grade him, but I just think the end result of this first year could be fine for him, basically.
Mm-hmm. That's all people care about is like whether you got the job done or not.
Right. And when you read through a history book, they won't remember all these little day-to-day, well, he's down in the polls today because he said this and he did that. If he gets something, it'll be huge for him. It'll be historic, and he can always point to it. I'm the guy who got health care reform.
Mm-hmm. I could probably ask you about 100 other things, but we have to get going here. So
all right.
People can check you out on Zeitgeist on MSNBC or 5:30 a.m. on MSNBC TV.
Yeah, if you have like a drinking problem or insomnia, 5:30.